Hey, what's up, gang? It's Adam from the CommanderSmiths, and it's been a while, but I'm doing a Spotlight deck tech today. I've been working on the Iron Spider-Man Stark upgrade. So actually, this is a little shout out to Lowry. He gave me the idea. I did have a 60-card deck way back in the day that was all modular focused, and actually, surprise, surprise, if you know me, I like mill, and it was a mill deck. So I used Altar of Dementia. And what I'd do is I'd sacrifice the first modular dude to put those counters on the next one. The person mills, do the next thing, but now it's added more counters, and it keeps adding until you get to the last one, and that's how the game wins. So that's not what this one did. In fact, this was a little difficult, I'm not going to lie, because we're dealing with colorless spells, so you don't have a lot of options, so you actually lose out on quite a bit of the modular stuff. So I think I only have like 7 or 8 modular creatures in this, because there are some good ones that have a color, and so I can't put them in here. So I will say this. I left the modular in the ones that I liked the most. There are some other ones that I cut in here, and I would say this. You could build this deck, take those modular things out, and it might be the way I go at some point. But add in creatures that are giving you advantages. Maybe, like, you'll see it. We have a lot of Monodorks in here. I have a lot of... You could do Flash is another way of doing it, making your artifact spells have Flash. I may drop that music down a little bit. It's distracting me there. So if you did things like that, or you added things that either hindered people or allowed them not to attack, or, there's a lot of artifact creatures that you could have that when they're into play do stuff. And while at the same time they're getting bigger, because that's the point of this deck, is you're putting 1/1 counters on all your artifact creatures, and really that's what it is. You're getting big, you're swinging in stompy style, and you kill everybody that way. Because you are colorless, there is the removal is interesting. You can't just go and do the spot removal very easily. There are some spells, but in this you just kind of want to hit a lot of things. And the Ugins. There's actually, I think I have all the Ugins in this, I think all of them are in this actually, because they work very well with anything that's colors, so they're perfect in here. But we'll get to that in a second. Before we get started, make sure if you're watching this video right now, please hit that like button, and if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We do tons of videos like this. Lowry does probably, to my one, he does 10, so he has a lot of Spotlight decks. I do some proxy stuff, and then we have the podcast every week. Typically on Mondays. And then next week is actually, we're going to be breaking down the secret layer for our podcast. Following week is the new set. We're going to do a set reveal of that too. So, all right, well, let's get started on Iron Spider Stark upgrade. I won't be doing the goldfish of this one, but you can definitely check out my deck list. It's in the links below, and that brings you to our page, and you can play test it. That's the best way if you really want to see how this one plays out. It just takes a long time for the videos. If I add that in there, I want to kind of keep this under 20 minutes. And so I'm not going to do that here. But definitely go play it. It's fun. I actually do it with Lowry's decks. When he builds them, I go and play them and see how they feel. And, it's a good way to get some ideas of how if you wanted to build this. So, all right, Iron Spider, Stark upgrade, 3 colorless, Vigilance comes into play. You can tap it, put a 1/1 counter on each creature or vehicle you control. So you could go a vehicle route if you wanted to do that. And then you can tap to remove 2 1/1 counters from among artifacts you control to draw a card. You don't have to remove it from the same one. You can remove a 1/1 counter from this creature, a 1/1 counter from this creature, and boom, you can, or it says artifacts. So yeah, it is artifacts. So if you had 1/1 counters for some reason on an artifact that isn't a creature, like vehicles, or you're able to do something and then it's no longer a creature, you can do that. So this deck, if you know how Lowry and I build, we're very much on draw heavy, and especially I do a lot of draw heavy. Because the commander has it on it, there's a lot less in here, because tapping 2 to draw is not that bad. That's pretty easy. And especially with this being able to tap, put a 1/1 counter on all these creatures. Look how many creatures I have down there. 37 creatures are in this deck. So it's going to be pretty easy to draw in this deck. And so I don't have a crap ton in here, but I do have some pretty big swingers when we get to that. So I do have these broken down into little categories. These might seem a little weird because it says 1/1 counters, but it's more of things that help utilize this, being able to do 1/1 counters more. So we have the Ozolith. This stayed in here and it almost seems like it's more of a protection because my stuff's going to be dying. And the nice thing here is then I can just put all the counters there. If I get my Iron Spark, what is the actual name? Iron Spider. We're just going to call him Iron Spider. I get Iron Spider back in play. I can throw all the counters on him. I can throw it on different creatures. The thing about this is Iron Spider doesn't need to have the counters on this. It's not the game winner part. All the other creatures that get it, like as you can see down here, Hangerback Walker, having the 1/1 counters on that really helps. Crystalline Crawler, having that on there gives you more mana. So the counters don't necessarily go here, but it can go on Iron Spider because it can kill somebody Voltron style if you wanted to. So one swing can be a possibility in this deck. So Ozolith, we have the Clock of Omen. So tapping your artifacts to untap your Iron Spider to keep doing the 1/1 counters. Crashing Drawbridge. It feels weird that it's a 1/1 counter part in this, but it's giving it haste so I can do this first turn. So that's kind of the category I threw it in there. Hangerback Walker. It's giving you a bunch of the 1/1. So that's kind of the nice thing with this is you can sacrifice or somehow get rid of Hangerback Walker. There are some sack outlets in this, and it makes that many 1/1s. Now, if you tap Iron Spider, all those get 1/1 counters, and those are counters you can remove. And that's the nice thing is if you have enough mana open, you could remove and draw a crap ton of cards just off of that. So, and I know you can do infinite mana and stuff. I didn't do that in this. But there are ways that you could go kind of crazy. But there are some nuts stuff in this, and we'll get to that in a second. Manifold Key, so we're just getting that untapping of our commander, which is really nice. And then it also adds that little unblockable, so if we wanted to kill somebody, with our commander damage or whatever. Marvin's nice because it's doing the same thing. It's getting an activated ability, so it's actually going to gain both of those because these are both activated abilities by tapping. And tapping the two, both are activated. So Marvin becomes basically a duplicate of that. Steel Overseer was our only, for the most part, our big beater of giving 1/1 counters to artifacts. But now we have our Iron Spider and all that stuff. So we're just adding extra 1/1 counter stuff. Sting, the Glinting Dagger. This is just awesome in this deck because at the beginning of each combat, you're untapping, so you're able to do your Iron Spider ability multiple times turn rotation. So that one's really good in this deck. Surge Conductor, so whenever a non-token artifact you control enters, Proliferate. So yes, it's adding the 1/1 counters, but we have a lot of Planeswalkers in here as well. And some other things that we'll get to in a second that this is going to help quite a bit. And it's nice because, yes, I am artifact deck where you normally think, oh, that's lots of tokens, blah, blah, blah. This is not. So this is very nice. It works very well with the 37 creatures in it. Tezzeret, Cruel Captain. So it enters, put a loyalty counter. What is it? I have to see it on this. Whenever an artifact you control, it gets a loyalty counter. The 0 is the untap, so it's allowing my Iron Spider to untap. It also gets a 1/1 counter, but then it's allowing me to do the 1/1 counters and everything else. So it's really nice there. This is really easy to get Tezzeret's ultimate. Too bad the ultimate isn't like winning the game, but it's kind of a nice thing. You get an emblem at the beginning of your combat, I believe. Combat on your turn, you put 3 1/1 counters on target artifact you control. If it's not a creature, it becomes a 0/0 robot. So that's kind of nice because then you're just adding to the counters. But it also has the tutoring part where I could go get an artifact. What is it? Artifact with 1 or less value, reveal it, put it in your hand. So I can go get my Soul Ring if I'm down on that. If I can go get these Voltaic keys or the Manifold keys. So there's a lot of options I can go and use Tezzeret's ability. So all 3 abilities are very nice. Plus he's going to, like I said, he's going to get to that ultimate. Could do it the first turn because you're dropping so many artifacts. 1,000-year elixir. It's giving being able to do my commander's ability first turn, but then also untapping it. So it has 2 of nice things in there. Unwinding clock. This is just brutal in this. Like you have this out, and it could be a part of the game winner because if this doesn't get removed, there's a lot of things happening. We already talked about Voltaic Key. Walking Ballista is also... Oh, I didn't put it in my game winner. This should also be in the Day of Dragons game winner section because you could just stack all the counters on that and just wipe out a player. There's just a lot happening with this one. Walking Ballista is fantastic there. This always, whenever I put Giggling Skitterspike in decks, it's always in the game winner section because you could just really abuse this. You throw all those counters on Giggling Skitterspike, And now you're doing all that damage to everybody. Not only that, it has the monstrosity, so if you want to first add the counters that way, if you had it open, you can, but it's indestructible as well, so there's a lot going on with this one. It's one of my favorite cards that they've printed in the last couple of years. I put it in a lot of decks that have to deal with, you know, raising power and stuff like that. I don't just throw it in any deck. It has to make sense that I'm getting it bigger. I don't like using the monstrosity part to do it. I want it so that I'm putting more counters on it by whatever I'm doing with my commander. So don't just throw it in a deck. I mean, it is kind of nice, but that's the way I like to use it. And I like that it hits all your opponents, which is very nice. We got our Sonic card, our only to the Sonic Super Drop. So we got Super State, enchant creature you control. It has base power 9/9 and has flying, first strike, trample, and haste. Very nice on that. And then when it deals combat damage to opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. So you don't need to put this just on your commander. You can throw it on any one of your big fatties that you get going out there, and you're just doing a crap ton of damage to everybody. Now, this was the thing I was talking about earlier with Ugin, Eye of Storms. This guy can get nutty if you get to... This is an ultimate that wins you the game, especially in this deck. So when it comes in, you get to exile one target permanent. I have to read it over here because it's very small print over there. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, which is my entire deck, exile up to one target permanent that player controls. The +2 is nice. You're drawing a card, gaining 3 life. The 0 is giving you some manas. You got a big fat. I bet you do there. That's not what I heard, Ibukagi. But then the -11 is search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, then shuffle until the end of turn. You may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. So basically, my entire deck is out except for my lands, and that's very doable to get the Ugin going, because this is a very creature heavy deck. I'm going to protect it, and it's also when you're casting stuff, so I can remove whatever the threat is that could hurt my Ugin. So this Ugin in 2 turns, let's see, it goes to 9, goes to 11. So 3 turns, once you get it out, is pretty much game over at that point. And then because we're playing creature heavy, I got all these creatures out. I do have a lot of mass remove colorless or colored cards. So just dropping this down, this would be one I probably hold in the hand until I'm like, okay, I got an opening here. This person doesn't have blockers, or everybody's creatures are gone except for mine. Drop this out. Everybody's dead from poison counters, because it's every non-token artifact creature you control that deals combat damage. They get 2 poison counters, not 1, but 2 poison counters. So you don't need that many to hit for this one to do a lot of stuff. All right, so draw package. We only got 9 in there. Normally I'm in the like 12 to 15 or more range, but these are good ones here. So the first one is from the Warhammer set. Whenever a non-token creature, artifact creature, or vehicle enters, draw a card. And it's not a cast, so it's if you could do any flickering effects or bouncing effects or whatever. It's pretty nice there. Then we got Mindless Automaton. Though I love this one in particular because I can add the counters onto it, and it's not. I'm not spending mana to draw cards. I just remove 2 1/1 counters from it to draw cards, and it's pretty easy with Spider-Man doing. If I do my shenanigans of doing it multiple times a turn cycle, this guy I can end up drawing a lot. All right, so really quick, Mystic Forge and Sensei's top out, and we'll get to it in a second, any of my, like, well, we'll use Ugin as the example. Ugin has colorless spells you cast, cost 2 less to play. So if you have Sensei's, Ugin, or any of the other ones that make my artifact spells cost 1 less, which I think I have 5 or 6 of them in this deck, and you have a Mystic Forge out, you draw your deck out. You could do whatever. You could draw as many cards as you want at that point, because how that works is you may look at the top card of your library. You may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library. Sensei's, you can tap it to draw, and then you put it on top. Well, now if it costs 2 less or 1 less, now you're playing it for free. Draw the next card. It goes on top, so it just goes through your entire library. So this is probably... I don't normally put combo like infinite, but there's a stopping point. It's not infinite. You decide when it ends, and it's a 3-piece combo. There's a lot that has to go into it. They have Sensei's, they have Mystic Forge out, and a mana reducer. So this one, I'm a little more okay with it being in here. I don't normally like to do that, but I'm okay with it in this. and then you guys are okay. No, I'm just kidding. All right, then we got the One Ring. Very abusive in this deck because you already saw we have a bunch of the untap your artifacts. Well, you don't need to do it on your commander. If you want to draw some cards, you just keep untapping the One Ring and tapping it and tapping it. And so your first turn, you get it. You can draw that one. Oh, you might be able to draw 2, 3, 4, 5 cards before you even take damage from it. So the One Ring is very nice in this. Then we got Towashi. Well, let's see if I can do it. Toashi. There we go. Guide bot. I think my kid can't even read. Where is it? Where's my button? There it is.
One, kid can't even read. Two.
So a very similar thing to, well, no, I like the mindless automaton a little better, but this one's nice because all your stuff are going to be modified. So it costs 1 less for each creature that's modified. It's at least just 3 because this comes out and you put a 1/1 counter on a creature. So now it only costs 3. Most of the time, this is just a tap and draw ability. So that's really nice in here. Then we got we already talked about that Ugin, this Ugin. Doing a similar thing. I consider this a little bit of a draw because you're taking the top card and manifesting it in a way. It's not manifest because it's just face down. And then when it leaves the battlefield, you get it. So it goes into your hand. So manifesting, if they killed it, you have to cast it and all that stuff. This is if it dies or just leaves the battlefield, it goes right to your hand. So a little card advantage. And we got some removal on there. Destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. And then lastly is Zenith Chronicler. If you're playing 1 color decks, this is a fantastic card. It helps your opponents too because they're going to be drawing as well. But this will stick around because your opponents are going to want to draw off of your other opponents doing silly stuff by playing multicolor stuff. So great card in here for a 2-drop. And it'll get big when you're adding 1/1 counters to it. All right, so we got 20 Mono Rock and Ramp in here. Now, a lot of this is Mono Dorks or Mono Reduction stuff, so we'll burn through this pretty quick. But there's a lot, and that's what I was saying earlier when we get to the modular stuff. Some of the things you can kind of take out or put in if you want to take out the modular stuff is do stuff like this, where it's, adding mana. So early game, it's adding mana, but later, this guy turns into a beater after he gets 5, 6, 1/1 counters on it. So this just add 1 colorless mana. It's a 2-drop. I try to get the 2-drop Mono Dorks as much as possible. So I got that, and my son is calling me right now. They just got off the bus. So they probably are trying to see if they can come in the room. I'm not done yet, boys. All right, so then we got Cloud Key. So we're going to pick artifacts, and it's going to cost 1 less. So there's our second one of Mono Reduction. Forsaken Monument. Yes, of course, we're going to tap our mana. Now it taps for 2. And then when you cast color spells, that's fun too. And then it gives a pump to your creatures. Foundry Inspector. There's our third Mono Reductor. Glaring Flesh Raker. This one I really like in this. Now, it's not an artifact. And yes, it's a colorless deck, and I have an Eldrazi, but this is the only Eldrazi in here. But it's whenever you cast a color spell, you get a Mono Dork. And then whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this is not only giving you mana, but we're also hitting the board as well across, hitting every way. Now, this will not get the 1/1 counters from our commander, but this is really good in this deck. It's really helpful. Hedron Crawler, so that's another Mono Dork. We have our 4th Mono Reducer with Joria's Familiar. Mannequin, other Mono Dork, and then Metalworker, just as an all-star in this. This is really going to get your hand out. That and Mycosynth Golem, you're just going to drop your artifact creatures out for free. This just works so well in this. Ornithopter of Paradise, yes, any color. You're not going to be able to do colorless because it is a color. It needs a color there, but it is a 2-drop dork, and so most of the stuff doesn't require a colorless mana. So this is going to be totally fine. Palladium Mirror, so we got another Mono Dork. We got an untapper and a mana rock right there, which is always nice. Pit Automaton, it's giving you 2, so that allows you to use your commander's ability by just tapping this. That's really nice there. Plague Mirror, another Mono Dork, but we can give Infect to it and kill somebody with poison. Solemn Simulacrum, Soul Ring. Sonic Screwdriver is really nice in this. So the 3, we get the 1 color. We also got the untap. We also got the scry and the unblockable. There's a lot going on with this card. This is really good. It just does a lot of work. There's a lot of things that you can do with this card. And then the only vehicle I think I have in this is this one, the Regalia. So this is from Final Fantasy. Team Gisela. Where's the... yeah, you would. Lucas with your Team Gisela. So whenever it attacks, reveal cards to the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest into your library in a random order. So this is a crew 1. It has haste, so this is a very nice card to get that ramp out there. Yeah, there is lots of mono production, and the thing is you want to be able to use your commander's draw abilities. That's why I have so much in here. It's way more than I normally do. But again, they're out and they're getting bigger. So worst case scenario is I have huge fatty dorks that can kill people. So that's kind of the nice thing in this. And then the Ultima Origin of Oblivion. It's not an artifact, but it does allow my lands to tap for 2. And then it kind of fucks with everybody else's land when he attacks. So this one's kind of nice. 4/4 flying, so it's evasive in that way. So you're going to be able to fly through, hit somebody, change one of their worst lands, Gaia's Cradle, into a colorless basic, so they can't use it. All right, then we got our modular. Okay, so I only have 7. So I said it's modular madness. It was modular madness when I started building this deck, but now I just whittled it down to the 7, and one of them isn't technically a modular, but it does a modular thing with the Iron Apprentice. Does the exact same thing as modular, just doesn't say modular. But the Arcbound Crusher, this one is artifacts come into play, right? Yep. When an artifact comes into play, it gets a 1/1 counter and has modular 1. So if you guys don't know what modular, how that works is when it dies, and you can read that there, it says when this comes into play, you put that many counters on it. And then when it dies, goes to the graveyard. It can't be in exile. You may put those 1/1 counters on target artifact or creature. No, artifact creature. Sorry. So kind of the nice thing with the Ozolith, going back to the beginning there, when these die, you get like a double trigger. So if it had if it had 3 1/1 counters on it and it dies, the Ozolith gets the 3 1/1 counters, and you get to move the modular counters onto a creature that you want. So that's kind of a nice little combo in there. I will say that if they make more modular sets coming out, this deck might shift more back to the modular heavy, because that's really what I want to do. And if I do that, I would add in like the altars, the dementias, add in the sacrifice stuff. No, this is not a budget deck. No, when we do these, it's not normally a budget deck unless we do the normally it's the commander precons. Those ones will do budget. This is not budget. This is all the cards that I own. So this is good for me. I should go back to that.
Oh, good for you.
So these are cards that I own, and yeah, this is not budget at all. Especially when, this one doesn't have the crazy lands that I normally do with the duels and all that, because this is utilizing the colorless stuff there. So, man, and I said I wanted to keep this under 20. I'm way over. This is gonna be a long video. All right, so then we got Arcbound Ravager. We got that's a free sack outlet, but also has modular. The Reclaimer brings back your stuff. This little guy, when it deals damage, gets a counter. This one has the flying, so we got evasiveness there. And then this one allowing you to search for constructs. Now, I believe, let me check really quick. Construct 16. So this is going to find its targets right there. So all these are the best ones that the ones that I liked the most. And I got rid of the other ones. Now, like I mentioned again for the 3rd time, this would be the spot if you wanted to duplicate this deck. I could see you removing some of these, but a lot of these, it doesn't matter about the modular. Like I'd keep this in here. I'd keep this in here, and I'd keep these 3 and this one in here. These 3 are interchangeable. I may end up switching these out because they're just like low drops. That's why they're in here. It's only 2 there, and 1 there. Because I want to get creatures out. I want things out before my commander hits, if I can, so that when I can use my commander's ability, I have not just him as a target. I want to have 2 or 3 targets. I am also a little low on the protection. This is the thing I'm a little worried about. We're not using color, so it's a little harder to protect my shit. So I just have the normal guys. Commander's Plate, I'm protected from everything because each color, that's not my color identity, so I'm protected from everything but artifacts. So that's kind of nice there. This is from the Warhammer. Man, this is a $20 card, but makes sense. Other artifact creatures you control have hexproof. This one is going to... It could be a protection, or it could be a win the game, because you give overload. All your creatures cannot be blocked at that point. They're not going to be able to block it. because everything's going to have protection from every color. So that's kind of nice there. Lightning Greaves, Mithril Coat, and our Swiftfoot Boots. So this is what I'm curious of how I normally have a lot more protection because Lowry and myself do not play counter spells. And so we have to figure out a way to counteract the relentless attacks on us or on our stuff. So normally I'm at like that 12 to 15 range of protection stuff. These are just the ones that I like, and I'm just hoping that my commander is such a low CMC, I'll be able to get them back out pretty easily there. All right, removal. Again, a little lower on the removal side, but they are mass removal, almost every single one, except for our Monoskelion, and the Walking Ballista. Most everything else is hitting every permanent that's a color, like the Ugin, the OG Ugin. These are a little spot removal there, but these are big mass removals here. Yes, playing at instant speed helps. That is a good point. That's what I would probably replace those 3 modulars with, and that's what I actually have on my sideboard. Just that would probably be the way that I'd get around that. You personally have been affected by Lowry by a Lowry counterspell. He does have a counterspell deck. So I'll give you that, Lucas. He does have a counterspell deck, but he doesn't. When he plays a counterspell, he tries to justify it. So, all right. So that is the deck in a nutshell. Yeah, we're going to do this really quick. I want to get this done in the next 3 minutes. I want to keep it under 30. But the lands, I finally get to use shit lands. Not that I'm saying this one is, but a lot of these, like we talked about this in the podcast, Buried Ruin. I'm not going to use this this is the only deck I've ever put it in, besides opening a precon and it's in it. But this is nice in here. It has some recursion. At worst, it's a land. You know, it's giving me a colorless. I'm using all the Surveil, the Scry. As long as they don't come into play tapped, I have it in here. This one adds the shield counter, so a little protection there. We got Field of the Dead. We're using so many different lands in the deck, so Field of the Dead just works there. That one does come into play tapped, but it does have a huge effect with the land stuff. Now, this could be something I switch out because I don't have fetches in here. And Field of the Dead really works well when you have fetches, being able to get 2 zombies every time you're playing a land there. But we'll see how this one works in this. But that's pretty much it for the ones that come into play tapped. Otherwise, every single one, I got a couple man lands in here. Every single one of these is an untapped, but they have a different ability. So I get a little bit of a card advantage with these Scry lands. Of course, there's the Sagas in there. Hashtag Urza's for life. War Room's awesome because I'm going to pay 0 life. And I only have 4 wastes in this bad boy. So, yeah. So that's the deck in a nutshell. Like I said, I'm not going to do the gold fishing because that typically takes me another 15, 20 minutes. I want to keep this under 30. I wanted it under 20, but I talk a little too much. But really, go give it a try. It's listed below in the comments, or not the comments, in the description. Check that out. Let me know some suggestions if you guys have some suggestions. But I'm really excited to play this deck, get it out in the wild. I've played this through no less 30 times. Like, I've gone through this deck so much. So I'm excited to actually get in our group and play this on our next in real life game. So, all right, gang, that should do it here. Was there anything else I wanted to mention with the sideboard? Yeah, there was some sideboard shenanigans you can do. So you can kind of look what I had in there with Lifeline. You can have the sacrifice and all that stuff. Nice. Look at you and your jokes. It's not such a waste. But yeah, there's some other things you could do in these. But yeah, check it out. Play through it. It's fun to go through other people's decks and do the goldfish and see how you would play it and kind of figure out that puzzle. So, all right, gang, that should do it. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. See ya. Bye. Sega.